So basically, Raf is asking, what is the minimum amount of daily active immersion needed to eventually reach fluency? Of course, this idea of like, what's the bare minimum hours that I can do and still get fluent? Like, this is something that I think's been asked since the beginning of time. And I always just hated this question because I'm like, that's not the right mindset. Why are you going in asking what the bare minimum is? You should be asking, what's the bare maximum that I could do, you know? But this question never goes away. And I think I finally came up with what I think is a pretty good answer. So personally, I can't think of anybody that I know has gotten fluent in Japanese and never had a period where they were doing more than 3 hours a day. Like, I don't know anybody that just did 1 hour a day for 10 years and got fluent, or like 2 hours a day and got fluent. Pretty much everyone I can think of that meaningfully got fluent in Japanese had a period where they were doing like many hours a day. Most people lived in Japan, obviously, and they were using Japanese every single day, had friends in Japanese, had their work involved Japanese. And then, you know, the people that got fluent in Japanese without coming to Japan are generally hardcore people. Like, that's kind of the two groups that I can think of people who actually got fluent in Japanese. There's the hardcore people that did it outside of Japan, because you have to be pretty intentional about learning a language to reach fluency in it without even being in the country, right? It's really up to you to build the environment and everything. So obviously you're probably going to be, you know, at least a little bit hardcore if you succeeded in learning Japanese to fluency without living in Japan. Then there are the people that actually lived in Japan, and a lot of times maybe they weren't so conscious about their learning, or they weren't top down in the way they formalized their learning process. But because it was integrated in their life, they had to use it in their everyday life in Japan, they ended up fluent in Japanese. But for both of these groups of people, I can't think of someone that, at least for part of the time, was not doing more than 3 hours a day. So what this kind of means is that if you're like, okay, I'm going to do the exact same number of hours every day, and so what's the bare minimum that I can make that number to be fluent? If that's kind of the premise that this hypothetical is based off of, it probably has to be at least 3 or 4 hours a day. Because like I said, I don't know anybody that's consistently throughout the entire time done less than 3 or 4 hours a day and actually reached fluency. But I think this is kind of the wrong question to be asking. This question of, what's one number where I can just do X hours every single day and then get fluent? And what's the minimum amount I can make that? I think instead we should have two different concepts here. One is the daily minimum to make meaningful progress towards fluency. And the second is the daily minimum to fully achieve fluency. So what I mean by this is, if we're talking about the daily minimum to make meaningful progress towards fluency, I think this is relatively small. Compared to other hobbies, it's still pretty significant. But, you know, I think if you do Anki every day and you do like some listening every day, you can make meaningful progress towards fluency. So, you know, here I'm thinking like 1 to 2 hours total, probably an hour Anki. If you're doing like auto mining, then there's the time you spend actually reviewing, and then there's the time you spend preparing your new cards. So I'm saying together, maybe that's like 1 hour total. And then 1 hour immersion on most days. Like, you know, it's pretty easy to get an hour of passive listening if you're serious about it, at least most days. And maybe miss a couple days here or there. And so overall, I'm saying this is like 1 to 2 hours a day. So I think if you consistently do 1 or 2 hours a day in this form, then you will make meaningful progress towards fluency. You know, your vocabulary will grow if you're learning new words in Anki every day and you're doing your reviews, so you're not forgetting what you've learned in the past. And if you keep listening, you'll slowly integrate more and more of what you've learned in Anki. But this is probably not going to be enough to actually reach fluency. And the reason for this is because on the comprehension front, I think you'll eventually reach a point where the words that you have to learn to continue to grow your vocabulary, or I should say, like, you know, you can learn every word through Anki, but you have to integrate these words and actually acquire them, right? You can't really fully acquire them just from Anki. And so once you get to the point where the next set of words that you need to acquire and integrate are pretty rare words, if you're only doing like 30 minutes of listening a day, then you're going to see these words so infrequently that it's going to be very hard for your brain to integrate them, right? Like, in order to really like master a word, you need to be seeing it at a regular basis. And with only 30 minutes of listening a day, you might only see a word like a couple times a year that someone who's doing immersion for like many hours a day would see like every couple weeks or something, right? And so you'll probably reach a point where it's hard to continue acquiring less common vocabulary. And I think like in order to actually start speaking the language, you have to have a certain amount of momentum for your brain to really switch over and start like thinking in the target language more fully and really be able to speak it. And I think that you need to be doing a couple, a significant number of hours a day to really have that switch happen. And so in order to like really break through to fluency, I think you're going to need to be doing like 3 or 4 hours a day on the minimum, and then ideally more. But I think that like the new model should be what maybe we can call a seasonal model. If you're someone who's busy and you have a life, then the optimal strategy is to be a seasonal language learner. So instead of just thinking of your life as like, I'm going to do the same thing every single day indefinitely, think of your life in terms of seasons. Probably it's good to think your whole life in this way, and probably most people already do, or a lot of people do. But for me, I've been shifting to thinking about this more formally and kind of like planning the seasons of my life. And it's made things a lot easier, especially if you're like me and you have ADHD and you tend to like have a lot of things you want to do, but you like to focus on one thing at a time. So you could think of having 2 different modes in your language learning. I didn't think too much about this, but for now I call them like jogging and sprinting. So here are some realistic possibilities for someone reaching basic fluency in Japanese in 5 years while also having a busy life. So one potential is for each year, you jog 10 months out of the year and then sprint for 2 months. Those 2 months could be back to back, or maybe they could even be like, 5 months jogging, 1 month sprint, 5 months jogging, 1 month sprint. You could do that every year. Probably that would be enough to get you to fluency in 5 years. And so when I'm saying jogging here, what I mean is like, again, 1 to 2 hours a day, just Anki and lots of passive listening. And then sprinting, ideally we're talking about like 4, 5, 6 hours a day, maybe even more on weekends, like for that period of time, for just that month or just those 2 months, you're really making this your top priority. Maybe you even, hang out with your other friends a little bit less. You don't do your other hobbies a little bit less. You have the rest of the year for that. You're cutting out this time to really focus on language learning, and then you can make like really significant gains. Or maybe a different possible combo could be that you jog for 4 years straight, and then you set aside a whole year of your life to just really focus on language learning that year. It'd probably be enough to get you fluent. So yeah, the reality is if you want to get fluent in a language like Japanese and you're an English speaker, or you don't speak an Asian language already, that's like a really hard thing. The vast majority of people that try to do this fail. The majority of people that do succeed up until now are people that were students or moved to Japan and just had a lot of free time and were super single-mindedly dedicated to this thing. But I think with this new model, we could see people that are busy juggling multiple things in life and actually getting fluent in Japanese. And an interesting kind of analogy or similar example of this is that this is what serious meditators have been doing for this whole, basically ever since meditation like came to the West a couple decades ago. I was pretty into meditation. Like I went pretty deep for a while. I've gone on a couple meditation retreats. And so I at least have a pretty good knowledge of how meditation works and how people tend to engage in it. And generally what people do is they have a daily practice where they'll meditate, anywhere from 20, 30 minutes a day to on the more serious end, like 1 or 2 hours a day. I knew people that they're just normal people with a life, but they meditated 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening. They woke up early and made time for that because they're really serious about it. But even then, in the like hardcore meditation world, it's actually quite similar to language learning, or at least immersion learning, in that 1 to 2 hours a day is not considered to be a lot of meditation in the meditation world. That's kind of like the bare minimum to be getting into some of the deeper meditative states. Hardcore people, like monks, just meditate like 7 to 12 hours a day every single day. And that's what they do. And so that they're like the hardcore, heavyweights of the meditation world. And so what a lot of people do that are serious but are normal people with lives is they go on meditation retreats where you set aside on the short end, sometimes like 3 days, there's 3-day retreats. More common are like 1 to 2 week retreats where you just mark this on your calendar 6 months or a year in advance, and you don't plan anything for those 2 weeks. And then you actually go to some kind of retreat center or like facility where you just meditate for like 10 hours a day, and you don't have to do anything else but meditate. There's like food prepared for you and everything, and there's like a teacher guiding it, and you just do nothing but meditation for like 2 weeks. And so serious people will do that once or twice a year. And there's also the retreats that are like 3 months or more than 3 months. Like if you know Sam Harris, I think he went on a couple like multiple month-long retreats and stuff. But yeah, basically that's what hardcore meditation people have done to like reach some of the highest achievements possible in meditation while also having a busy life is they will meditate for an hour or two a day. And it's still hard to make time for that, but it's possible, right? If you're serious. And then you can also be hanging out with friends, have a busy job, have other hobbies. And then they'll set aside some time to go on meditation retreats. And then they basically, with all the potential you build up in your daily practice by doing it every day, when you go on the retreat, you can suddenly kind of unlock all that potential and make huge gains. And I think that's what's possible here. Of when you're doing Anki every day and you're doing listening every day, you're making gains, but your potential is going to be building up faster than what you've actualized is. It's like they're both going to be growing, but the potential is going to be growing even faster because you have all these words that you know and you're making all these connections, but they're not like fully in place yet. And then when you just kind of like hit the pedal to the metal and go into that hardcore period, then I think your potential will very quickly be actualized and you'll be able to make really quick gains. So this is kind of what I'm planning for my Chinese, because like right now I'm just like I have too much going on. Like I'm still actively trying to improve my Japanese pronunciation and I'm working with that teacher. I'm running the dojo. Now I'm also trying to learn programming so that I can improve the add-on and like maybe turn the add-on into something bigger. And I also live with my girlfriend who's Japanese and doesn't want to watch anything in Chinese. So it's not really the ideal situation for like learning Chinese, but I can wake up and spend an hour on Anki every day and then listen whenever I'm out and about. I'm still not listening to any music. I'm just listening to Chinese when I'm out and about. And so I feel like I've been making progress. And it's also kind of cool as an experiment to see how far can I take this. It's like the opposite approach of what I took with Japanese. And I think it could take me pretty far. And then at some point I'll have like the time will come, we'll be like, okay, I'm going hardcore in Chinese. And I think I could actually get fluent one day with this approach. Yeah, and I think this is really important because in the past, I had an all or nothing mindset where the way I learned Japanese was going hardcore, and that was the only way I knew how to do it. And so when it got to the point where I was like, well, I can't do Chinese hardcore right now because I have too many other things going on in my life, then I would just quit. Whereas now, for the first time that I'm adopting the seasonal model, I'm like, well, right now I'm jogging, but I can sprint later. And with the combination of those two, you can reach fluency. Now that's what actually has been keeping me going with Chinese, whereas all these other times I quit.